NTA International News.
President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration remains steadfast to the stability of South Sudan. Federal government reaffirms commitment to ending all forms of violence against the Nigerian child. U.S. government gives grants to non-governmental organizations in Nigeria. Good to have you join us on the news on NTA International. I am Ifeanyi Okafor. And we'll lead our bulletin with this report. The federal government says it will remain steadfast in ensuring that South Sudan regains stability for a prosperous future. President Muhammadu Buhari, who stated this while exchanging views with the country's new ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Paul Malanga Karu, however, insists that political actors must show stronger commitment to implementing the existing peace accord. Correspondent Adamu Sambu has details.
It was a befitting diplomatic welcome for Ambassador Paul Akaro of South Sudan as he arrived at the State House to formally present his letter of credence to President Muhammadu Buhari. With this remarkably historic ceremony, the new envoy has formally assumed official responsibilities in Nigeria. At a brief interactive engagement with him, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed Nigeria's disappointment with the delay in the implementation of the peace accord in South Sudan, which he said affected the desired development of the country in spite of the lofty potentials for growth. He told the ambassador that the peace process would be most effective if accepted and implemented by leaders from within the country without external interventions. The president therefore advised the leaders of South Sudan to accommodate one another for the good of their people, saying the African Union will continue to hold them to account. Ambassador Akaro, who expressed gratitude to Nigeria for his continued support, told President Buhari that the government of national unity in South Sudan is still committed to the peace process as the surest way to stability and development. A similar reception was also accorded the new ambassador of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Mr. Sadiq Bashir. Receiving his letter of credence, President Muhammadu Buhari said the federal government will continue to support the country as it strives to realize her developmental goals. As he puts it, you can be assured that Nigeria will remain steadfast in supporting Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And to address security challenges in the country, there is a need for dynamism and proactiveness in the formulation of a grand strategy for security within the state, taking cognizance of carrot and stick approach. This was a common front recommendation from eminent persons and expert groups on security who met in Abuja to dialogue on current security challenges in Nigeria. Justin Bemui has details.
The reality of insecurity, among other challenges, has remained an obstacle to the full realization of development in Nigeria. From the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast to militancy in the south-south region, as well as herders-farmers clashes in the north-central and kidnappings among other security challenges, attentions have been drawn for dialogue at the instance of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies towards an all-inclusive national strategy. The submissions of all speakers here on addressing national security was unanimous, as they emphasized the need for a more inclusive strategy. But most importantly, they pointed out good governance and sustainable development as key.
Practically, on the ground, all the facts suggest that security must be all inclusive.
But I think more important is to place in Nigeria a situation whereby we have good governance, whereby we have a very quick way of not only electing our leaders, but also easing them out when they do not perform.
The question of capacity of our developmental and security institutions have to be addressed.
What are the functional roles of traditional rulers in the defense policy and foreign policy? We need to be part of the system.
It is expected that after the two-day meeting, resolutions and recommendations from the dialogue would be forwarded to the government for possible implementation to curtail national security challenges. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
In demonstration of its commitment to end child marriage and other vices against the Nigerian child, the federal government has concluded arrangement to launch End Child Marriage campaign on Tuesday. The Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Senator Aisha Jumai Al-Hassan, said this at a news conference in Abuja. Kemi Fakeye has details.
In recognition of the challenges posed by child marriage, which include violation of human rights and a hindrance to key developmental outcomes, the federal government reaffirmed its commitment to join the 15 African countries that have launched the campaign.
To create continued awareness and sensitize the general public on the dangers of child marriage and to end or reduce the ugly development to its barest minimum in Nigeria, in line with the African Union campaign to end child marriage in Africa, a national technical working group on ending child marriage in Nigeria was inaugurated on the 23rd of July 2015 by my ministry. The aim of the technical working group is to institutionalize the campaign and develop a holistic, multi-sectoral strategy for ending child marriage in Nigeria, as well as create awareness and sensitize Nigerians on the ills of child marriage.
For UNICEF and other development partners, the launch is a step in the right direction, as findings show that 50 million children are married off annually globally, and Nigeria has the highest number.
The rate of obstetric fistula, it's very high in Nigeria, and the majority of those occur amongst young girls. Nigeria still has a very high maternal mortality rate, over 570 deaths per 100,000 births every year.
In line also with the Sustainable Development Goals launched in 2015 to end child marriage by 2030. It's about sensitizing and building a strong alliance with our religious leaders for them to take the lead and come to the front line of this endeavor.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is expected to launch the campaign and the National Strategy Document 2016 to 2020, developed by the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development in conjunction with other development partners. Kemi Fakeye, NTA News.
And now, as part of measures to enhance entertainment, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has appealed to state governors in the country to encourage and support movie producers with incentives to enable them contribute to national growth. The minister made the appeal in Abuja at the premiere of a movie titled My Name is Kadi. Anthony Forson reports.
The movie My Name is Kadi is an entertaining love story laced with checking corruption and child talent development. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed, while commending the producer for her effort, said the federal government is working to create the enabling environment for such endeavors in the creative industry to grow.
We need to encourage and support the industry, the creative industry, from wherever part of the country it is coming from. There is the same enabling environment where we are going to, provide for all of them.
Anything to encourage it, and that's exactly what this government is about. We are there to provide whatever is necessary in terms of the legal framework, the legislative input, in terms of making things easier for the actors and the actresses in the area of copyrights, in the area of piracy and stuff like that. And so that's what it's all about.
In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
One of the pillars of successful democratic practice is clarity of rules, laws, and social principles through access to information and guide against social vices. This was the basis of media initiative against injustice, violence, and corruption, with a theme, Creating an Open Society Using Freedom of Information Act. Basi Taipang reports.
Freedom of Information Law, enacted in 2011, is an act with 32 sections that ensures citizens' participation in governance and provides public rights to information. 5 years down the lane, public analysts say FOI compliance is still below 60 out of more than 800 ministries, departments, and agencies in the country. This informed the seminar for representatives of civil societies within and outside Abuja.
For you to be able to hold governments accountable in line with the precepts and the foundations of democracy, it is important that the people to whom the government belongs must understand what their governments are doing, must have access to information on what government is doing, and must be ready to exercise their rights under the law.
To entrench transparency and accountability in our systems, in public institutions across the country, you need the FOI Act. Therefore, we are calling on Nigerians, the citizens, the law enforcement agencies, the federal, state, and the local governments, all the three arms of government, civil society, media, to join hands to ensure an elaborate and, of course, vigorous implementation of the FOI Act.
Overviewing the strategies for engaging public institutions to fully implement the Act, the head of FOI Unit, Ministry of Justice, educated participants on the rights of applicants.
So the right of that citizen can be exercised through access to public information in the domain of every public institution. He has the right to demand for these records and information on how governance is being done.
Requests for any information, speakers noted, is time-bound, as each application should not be delayed for more than 7 days. Basita Ibang, NTA News.
Turning to health matters, the Federal Ministry of Health has conducted free surgery for 18 indigent Nigerians as part of its ongoing rapid response program at the National Hospital Abuja. Gloria Kanem reports.
Initiative program is deployed by the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Health to scale up basic healthcare services and expand its reach to the vulnerable in the society.
This is part of the change agenda to bring healthcare to the masses, a special intervention in terms of getting those who are really vulnerable, who cannot afford it, and targeting them and making them to come out to have free healthcare is what we have been doing, and we are going to continue.
We admit them and then take them to the theater, operate, and for our team, they stay about 5 days to 1 week before we remove our stitches, and then they come back for reviews.
10,000 surgeries, including cleft lip and palate repairs, myomectomy, hysterectomy, among others, will be carried out in 46 federal tertiary institutions for indigent Nigerians in the course of the Rapid Response Initiative program.
They do fibroid for me. I thank the federal government. They are doing well for me because I didn't believe this. I would do this in this year. I thank you, Baba and Baba Buhari.
In Abuja, Glory Ekanem, NTA News.
Away from health to politics, Governor Olusegun Mimiko of Ondo State has congratulated the state governor-elect, Mr. Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. In a statement by his chief press secretary, Eni Akinshola, Governor Mimiko wished the governor-elect success in the challenging task of governing the state. He enjoined residents of Ondo to sustain the peace enjoyed in the state. Governor Mimiko promised to facilitate a smooth transition between his government and the incoming one. Senator Ali Modu Sharif faction of the People's Democratic Party has attributed the loss suffered by the PDP in Edo and Ondo governorship elections to what it calls impunity within the party. This was during a media briefing. Political correspondent Abdullahi Garba Brininkudu reports.
In an address titled Let Us Come Together, the Deputy National Chairman of Madi Sharif faction, Kairu Ojubo, blamed the Ahmad Makarfi caretaker committee for the defeat PDP suffered in the two states.
And identified impunity and lack of respect for the PDP constitution and the rule of law as the major problems that led to our failure in the Edo and Ondo governorship election.
The Supreme Court had last week ruled in favor of Ahmad Makarfi committee on Ondo governorship candidate tussle, following which the committee announced closure of any reconciliation with the Madu Sharif faction. In Abuja, Abdullahi Garba Brunonkudu, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Stay on for more reports after this timeout.
Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. So let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogeruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Great to have you back on the news on NTA International. Now moving ahead, some non-governmental organizations selected across the country have benefited from the United States Ambassador's Small Grants Program initiated 27 years ago. Phoebe Kabrok reports that the beneficiaries were presented with the grants by the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Stuart Symington, at the embassy in Abuja.
The 31 non-governmental organizations were selected from over 200 organizations that applied for the grants, cutting across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The grants, ranging between over $2,000 to almost $10,000, are to be deployed for projects in areas of health, water and sanitation, education, as well as support to families affected by HIV and AIDS. U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Symington, says he hopes to visit and share in the success story of the NGOs whose projects aims at impacting positively on the lives of people at the grassroots level.
You ask yourselves, what difference am I making? Find a person who you have helped and take strength in knowing that you have literally changed the world.
Deputy Political Counselor of the U.S. Embassy, Andrew Wilson, speaks on the selection process of the beneficiaries.
We want to make sure that one area isn't given more preference than another. We want to try to spread, so to speak, spread the wealth throughout. So we take a look at that in during our decision process.
I plan to give the caregivers vocational training. I plan to visit the people that are down with HIV/AIDS with home-based care.
The U.S. mission in Nigeria has over the years supported the initiative and developments of communities in the country. Phoebe Kabruk, NTA News.
With renewed vigor to see the opening of the Ajaokuta steel plant as soon as possible, Minister of State for Mines and Steel, Abubakar Bawa-Buhari, spent part of his short visit to China to witness firsthand the production of steel in one of the provinces. The minister, who said the experience has cleared previous misconceptions about the use of the blast furnace technology in Nigeria, was exposed to the step-by-step process in China. Julieta Ino has details.
One of the side events of the Nigeria-China Mining Investors Roadshow took the Minister of State for Mines and Steel, Abubakar Bawa-Buhari, to Shaanxi Province on a visit to the Shaanxi Meijin Iron and Steel Company Limited in Taiyuan, the capital city. The main aim of the trip was for the minister to see for himself the production of liquid steel using coking coal and the blast furnace technology.
We heard from some experts saying that the issue of blast furnace technology is obsolete. It's not true. We went, we saw where the blast furnace is used in the production of liquid steel, and that is our priority, to produce liquid steel. We want, as part of our import substitution, stop all this importation, and that's why in our roadmap we gave priority to the Ajaokuta steel plant.
The minister said now that the legal issues hampering the progress of the Ajaokuta steel plant has been resolved, the place can be opened for production in a matter of months after finding the right partner. Research shows the blast furnace technology in the 14th century produced 1 ton of steel per day. Known as the first step in producing steel from iron oxides, the blast furnace equipment is in continuous evolution, and modern giant furnaces have been recorded to produce 13,000 tons per day. From Beijing, China, Julieta Aino, NTA News.
And next is Moplang Dakok for stories from the financial sector in the business news segment.
Welcome to Business News. Reports from the banking sector indicate that the total number of inactive bank accounts in Nigeria rose to 30.26 million in the third quarter of 2016. Latest data from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System NIBSS, which reveals this, added that the accounts abandoned to dormancy by customers now constitute 32.42% of the total 94.388 million activated bank accounts in the country. Elsewhere, Zimbabwe released new dollar-backed bond notes Monday with a daily withdrawal limit of $50 as the Southern African country grapples with a shortage of currency. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe said the bond notes were released into the market through normal banking channels. Zimbabwe is facing currency shortages, which made the banks limit withdrawals to between $40 to $50 a day from $300. And equities on the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed on a negative note Monday. Here are closing figures. That's it from here. The news continues. I am Moplang Dakok.
Thank you, Moplan. South African President Jacob Zuma is currently facing a vote of no confidence from leaders of his own party, the ANC. Having survived several parliamentary votes of no confidence, this is the first time the ANC will formally discuss his position. The top ANC body has extended its meeting to debate the motion tabled by Tourism Minister Derek Hanekom. Zuma has increasingly come under criticism over corruption allegations, with a recent report highlighting his links with the wealthy South African Gupta family. And on sports, Nigeria's Super Falcons set to confront South Africa's Banyana Banyana Tuesday in the 2016 Women